All right, hey class. So, a couple things that I want to touch on really quickly. So first, if you didn't see the announcement that I posted on Canvas today, I've bumped back the due date for the Ignite presentation by 1 week. So it'll be due a week from tomorrow instead of tomorrow. I did this because, like I said, I've been trying to find a good sample to show you guys for this Ignite presentation, and I finally found one that I think will work. But I want to make sure that you guys have enough time to review the example and then to complete your own Ignite presentation instead of having to kind of cram everything in. So it will be due next week on Friday, and then your final written portion of Project 4 will be due that Sunday. Now, just as a reminder, I will be opening up the peer review groups for Project 4 tonight as well, so make sure that you are uploading your rough drafts to Canvas. Okay, so what I want to do now, this example is going to come with a caveat. I took out the recording that went along with this presentation because, this was a student's presentation. I didn't feel comfortable having their voice incorporated in here without their kind of explicit permission. So what I'll do is I'll talk to you about what the person was saying throughout this presentation, so you get a sense of what the presentation should look like and what kind of things you should be talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and fire up the slideshow here so you can see. Obviously, this person used, let's go ahead and, there we go. Obviously, this person used PowerPoint for their presentation. And now if you remember what I showed you in the video I did prior to this one, where you can record your slideshow, that's what this person did. They just, did their presentation, hit record on each slide, and give a brief explanation of whatever it is they were talking about. So what this person was doing is they're investigating the nursing discourse community, obviously, as you can see here by the title, and they were looking at things like gender stereotypes in the field. And so that was what they were focusing their research on, and so that's what they talked about. Now for you, what you'll be focusing in on is similar to that. You'll be focusing on your discourse community, obviously, but instead of talking about, say, the research that you conducted for your lit review, which is what this person was doing in an older version of this assignment, you'll be talking about the research that you've been doing for Project 4. So you'll be talking about who you interviewed, why you interviewed them, what you talked about, what kind of things were said, what kind of things did you learn, what questions did you ask, and then from that, what genres did you pick, what did you notice from those genres, et cetera, et cetera. And so you're talking about your kind of interview research as opposed to your library research. So let's get started here. So for example, this is our first slide. You'll notice that it just gives us, an introduction of the student's name and the community. And all I'm looking for is for you to just kind of say, hey, this is my name, this is the community that I'm looking at, and this is why I'm interested in that community. So that would be kind of your first slide. Then moving on, what I want you to pay attention to as we go through this presentation is there's not a whole lot of information on the slides. I don't want you to feel like you have to overload the slides with a lot of info and research and bullet points. These slides are meant to just kind of be a backdrop to you talking to me about your interview and about your research, right? So because we can't have a face-to-face conversation due to the nature of this class, this is a good way for me to listen to you talk about what you've noticed, what you've learned. And so the slides will function as kind of a background, as a backup to what you're saying. Now, it's totally okay to have information on the slides, as you'll see here in a minute. But again, they can be just these kind of placeholders. If you watch that why give an Ignite talk YouTube video that I posted a couple weeks ago, you'll notice that that's what that person uses the presentation for as well. It's just kind of a backdrop, an exclamation point on what they're saying. So in this particular slide, obviously this person is talking about why he or she wants to become a nurse, and we're going from there. So you might do something similar, like this is why I'm interested in this community. Again, defining the community, totally cool. And then this introduces us to the first kind of real question that the student tackled in their research. So why do men comprise such a small percentage in the nursing workforce compared to women? And so this is where the student started to talk about the research that was conducted for her project. And so essentially what she started to talk about was, this is the question that I had, this is why I asked this question. So you might do something similar. You might say, this is kind of what I asked the person I interviewed, and this is why I was curious. This is what I was hoping to learn. This is what I was curious about. Or this is something that I found in Project 1 that I wanted to ask about. Moving on to the next slide. And then again, so the student was just pursuing that gender role in nursing. This is where you might start to talk about the answers to the questions, right? So the person that I interviewed, recommended that I look at these texts for these reasons. These are why they use them, etc. And so on and so forth. And so for the next kind of the middle part of your presentation, you're just going to be talking to me about, who you spoke with, what they said, what they recommended, why they recommended what they did. So when you're asking them about the genres, you might say, they said that they really use the academic article a lot. There was one in particular that he or she referenced. This is why that's an important thing for them. Again, with just kind of this presentation as the background. And so that's what you'll be doing for this. Just talk to me about your experience in that interview. And so you could have just kind of stock photos from your field, or if there's some kind of information, or maybe your interview person referenced a specific book that's really important to the field. You might have a picture of the book here, whatever. And then moving on, this is where you might start to talk about, okay, once the interview is over, I went and looked in the library or wherever to find the genres that he or she recommended. Here's genre number 1. This is what I noticed. Here's genre number 2. This is what I noticed. Here's genre number 3. This is what I noticed. This is some of the similarities that I saw. These are some of the differences that I saw. This is what these genres tell me. So again, at this point in the presentation, you're just talking me through basically what you're writing in Project 4. So you're starting with what field you're in, why you're interested, who you interviewed, your experience in that interview, what you found after the interview, and then kind of what you're writing about in Project 4. So, your genre analysis, you might say like, okay, so on this slide you might be talking about, the conventions of all the genres that you found, or on this slide, this is what these genres kind of tell me about the community. So if I'm looking at all of them and they're all using very formal language, what does that tell you about the community, right? Those kind of things. And then just some concluding thoughts. And that's really the extent of the presentation. It's not meant to be some very, incredibly formal, detail-oriented, presentation. It's really supposed to be just you talking to me about your experience, kind of like we would do if you came into my office and sat down and I said, hey, how'd it go? Okay? These are the things that I would want you to tell me. And we're just using this presentation format as a way to kind of guide your thought from beginning to end. Now, you are going to want to shoot for around 20 slides. That's what this person did, because what that'll allow you to do is it'll allow you to kind of go into detail about the major components of the assignment without having to kind of like invent things to talk about, essentially. So, just to recap, what field are you interested in? Why are you interested in that field? Who did you interview? How'd that interview go? What did you find after the interview? What did you notice? Closing thoughts. So those are the kind of the major points that we should be hitting. And so if you're still confused as to how to, let's bring this over. In terms of how to actually do the presentation, what you'll see here is if we go to slideshow under here, this record slideshow, record from the beginning, will probably be your best bet. And what it'll do is it'll just record whatever microphone you want to use. So if you're using, a headset for your computer, or if you're using a webcam, it doesn't matter. Either way, totally fine. So that would be probably the most effective way to do it. Now, if you have other ways of doing, like if you're using that Screencast-O-Matic that I talked about and that I'm actually using to record this presentation, that's totally fine. If for some reason you're doing like a video format, that's fine too. It might not upload properly to Canvas, in which case, we'll figure it out. Either you'll email it to me or you'll share it with me on Google or something like that. Shoot for PowerPoint because that is the easiest and most effective. But you are not limited as long as you find a way to get it done. So if you do have any questions, guys, let me know. I'm here to help, and I hope this video kind of helps explain the things that I'm looking for and what we're doing. So anyway, have a great night, and I will talk to you later.